Hello and welcome to the Intel Brief. Today is Wednesday, 26 November. I'm your host Daniel, and today we're going to talk about a US envoy has urged Sudan rivals to accept a ceasefire plan. Police have arrested 4 more suspects in the Louvre heist. And NATO chief says there's more work that needs to be done for the US peace proposal. So firstly, US President Donald Trump's envoy to Africa has said on Tuesday that he urged Sudan's rival commanders to accept an international ceasefire proposal without preconditions in a conflict that has devastated the country for more than 2 years. His appeal comes as diplomatic efforts intensify after Trump said last week he would personally engage in efforts to end the war. The latest truce proposal presented on behalf of the US, the UAE, Saudi Arabia, and Egypt, has not been released publicly. However, the Sudanese army chief called it unacceptable, while his rival and former deputy, the RSF commander, announced a unilateral 3-month humanitarian ceasefire on Monday. However, on Tuesday, the army said that it had fended off an attack on a base in a western state, the war's newest front line. So what? Firstly, it's a bit funny that the UAE is a part of this peace proposal because every bit of reporting indicates that the UAE is the main and probably the only international backer for the RSF. So it's a bit wild to see them coming into the peace proposal as they are essentially the people who direct the RSF in the background. Classic international deals, right? But yeah, it seems unlikely that this is going to work. A pretty key indicator here is that the RSF said they're going to have a unilateral 3-month ceasefire and then within a day attack the base on the front line. So yeah, I don't know. Hopefully this can get solved, but it seems highly unlikely. This conflict seems very deep-rooted in its current issues, and unlikely to end anytime soon. It might even be an issue of while upper levels of command are wanting to have some kind of ceasefire or humanitarian pause, they just don't have the command and control over the lower level units who are just out there conducting tactical level activity. And they just do it anyway, regardless of what's being said at the top. And next, French authorities on Tuesday arrested another 4 suspects in connection with last month's jewelry heist at the Louvre Museum, Paris prosecutors have said. Two men and 2 women. So the men were aged 38, 39, and the women 31 and 40, all from the Paris region. The prosecutor said, still the jewels remain unaccounted for, with an estimated worth of $102 million and have not been recovered since the brazen theft. So what? It seems like they might not be getting this jewelry back. Which is pretty sad, and kind of funny in a sad way. I don't know what these 4 people are suspected of doing as part of this, but it seems possible that these are people who either supported the actual thieves after and are now just being arrested for being accomplices, or they're being arrested to try and put pressure on them to give up details on where the jewelry actually went, as that's likely the main thing that the French authorities are looking for at this stage. Outside of that, it's likely they're going to keep arresting people and keep trying to pressure the main suspects and anyone who supported them to try and give up the details on where the jewelry has gone. And lastly, a NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte said that the US framework for peace in the Ukraine contains some promising aspects, but still requires further rounds of diplomacy. Rutte describes the meetings held between US, Ukraine, and European delegates in Geneva on Sunday to discuss a 28-point plan put forward by the US Trump administration as productive, but he said that they were only an initial step towards a structured US-Ukraine talks. Officials in Kiev and the other European capitals, however, said, this was a statement to a different point. Trump said that only a few points remain undisputed, but officials in both Kiev and European capitals said that the plan heavily favored Russian demands, foreseeing as it does not contain major territorial concessions. They say it would amount to a reward for Moscow's military aggression. Rutte also said that Russia has lost 20,000 soldiers each month while gaining little ground, while some 1 million Russian troops have been killed or severely wounded since Moscow's launch of this full-scale invasion in February 2022. So what? As expected, that this is not as clean and tidy as you would think it's going to be, and that it's possible that this is just further attempts by Russia to just delay, right? The one thing remaining that they don't want to happen is for Trump to threaten to sanction India for buying Russian oil. And as long as Moscow are engaging in this peace plan, Trump isn't going to do that. So they just want to delay. That's been the plan since Trump's came in. It's a year, right? Since Trump's come into office, that's been the plan. It's what they've been doing, and they've been doing it well. They've delayed, clearly. But yeah, I do agree with the points about it being a reward for aggression, and that is a big thing that the world, in terms of security, needs to worry about. If it is seen as Moscow gets away with all of this with some wins, even just not above neutral, then it's going to encourage other aggressive leaders to conduct similar actions to try and gain territory or change the status quo. So yeah, that's a big takeaway for me and something that needs to be thought about as part of this peace deal. Yeah. Anyway, that's been your Intel Brief. I've been your host, Daniel, and I'll see you around tomorrow. See you.